Somewhere far from the streetlights, far from any cameras, far from anyone who would even believe you, something howls. And for thousands of years, humans have asked the same question. Is that just a wolf, or is that something that used to be human? Tonight, we are talking about the legend of werewolves and how this is a bit of a worldwide phenomenon over thousands of years. This isn't new in human history, and this isn't tied to any specific region. Most of the world has at one point or another had a legend about humans becoming wolves or vice versa. So today we're going to be looking into some of that. So sit back, turn the lights down, and let's get into the legend of werewolves. We're going to be looking at some of the old stories, the ones that existed before countries had borders, before cultures had contact with one another, and before anyone agreed on what a monster even was. Because somehow people across the world who had never met, spoke, or shared any myths all told the same stories. A human who becomes a wolf and sometimes goes back. A human who can become a wolf and shed his skin, growing fur in its place. A neighbor who walks into the forest and comes back horribly disfigured. Long before just medieval Europe, long before the castles, witch trials, or even the word of the werewolf ever existed, humans were telling stories about people who became animals. One of the oldest written examples comes from ancient Mesopotamia. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, a story which is over 4,000 years old, a goddess turns a shepherd into a wolf. It wasn't a metaphor or a dream, but it was meant as a punishment, and suddenly the man himself is followed and stalked by the dogs that once followed him to protect his herd. The details matter because it shows something important. Even in the earliest stories in human history, becoming a wolf wasn't freedom, it was a punishment. In ancient Greece, we get the story of King Lycaon, the ruler who tested the gods by serving them human flesh, often described as the flesh of his own son. He was punished by Zeus and transformed into a wolf, not because wolves are evil, but because to the Greeks, the wolf represented something a little bit terrifying, a predator that lived just beyond the firelight, a creature intelligent enough to stalk, patient enough to wait, and familiar enough to feel uncomfortably close to human behavior. This is where we get the word lycanthropy, or wolf man. Already thousands of years ago, humans were wrestling with the same idea. What happens when civilization cracks and the animal underneath comes out? Now, I'm sure we all know that a lot of the werewolf legend comes from Europe, but why did the legend explode so rapidly in the surrounding countries? Well, wolves are real, and they were not by any means rare during the medieval and early modern Europe. They were neighbors to humans. They took livestock, they stalked farmers, they entered the villages during the harsh cold winters, and when people went missing, the forest was the first place suspected. But sometimes blaming a wolf wasn't enough, because what if the killer wasn't just an animal? What if it was smarter, faster, and stronger? What if there was something that felt supernatural to it? What if it was maybe someone you knew? By the 15 and 1600s, primarily in Germany and France, they were gripped by fear. Fear of witches, heretics, magic, and the devil hiding behind a familiar face. And in that fear, the werewolf trials began. One of the most infamous cases is Peter Stump, also known as the Werewolf of Bedburg. According to court records, Stump confessed under torture that he was killing livestock, women, and children. He claimed the devil gave him a magical belt, and when he wore it, he became a wolf. When he removed it, he would become human again. The wolf belt or wolf strap appears again and again in German folklore, a physical object, something tangible but with magical powers that turn people into unimaginable beasts. The more uncomfortable part about this story is after Stump was executed, searchers looked for the belt in his belongings and never did find it. Germany held onto the beliefs of werewolves more than most other countries. They didn't just talk about it in stories, but they actually held serious belief in it. There are towns where people still recount local wolfmen, forests tied to specific incidents, villages where folklore isn't treated as fantasy but as history with sharp edges. In the late 1600s, a wolf terrorized the town of Ansbach in Germany. When the locals did finally kill the wolf, they dressed it in human clothes, believing that it was a cursed, roaming soul of a cruel local official. They believed after he died, he had come back as a wolf and continued to terrorize the town. They weren't afraid of the wolf itself, but by the man they believed he was. Germany preserved these stories through folk collections, poems, and oral tradition. They weren't polished into just fairy tales, they were warnings and lessons. Because in the small rural communities, the idea that a man could become a predator at night felt disturbingly plausible. In South America, specifically Brazil, they have something called the lobisomem, a cursed man who transforms into a wolf or a dog-like beast. The Caribbean has the loup-garou legends, and North America has the Dogman, also the Beast of Bray Road. We've covered that one before. And countless eyewitness accounts describe the same thing: a tall, upright creature with a wolf-like head and a human posture. Different continents, same silhouette, and here's the problem for the skeptics. These cultures didn't borrow from each other, they arrived at the same monster independently, which means either the human mind is wired to invent the same fear, or something inspired it. Across cultures, werewolf stories share the same traits: transformation, often taken at night, or sometimes along with that, the full moon. A loss of control from the person who is becoming the beast, violence followed by the guilt of the act, and a return to human form with the memory of what they did still intact. These aren't random, and they map disturbingly well into human psychology of rage, impulse, and dissociation. The idea that part of us becomes something else when rules disappear. And the full moon? That detail shows up later, little reinforced by lunar cycles affecting sleep, behavior, and anxiety. While the myth has evolved as we've learned things, core still stays the same. Now let's see if we can explain werewolves. Well, partially we can. Some cases could be explained by wolves, serial killers, or rabies, some by rare psychological conditions like clinical lycanthropy, and some others by fear, hysteria, or scapegoating during violent or turbulent times. Granted, not all of these cases fit perfectly. They don't match the consistency, the global spread, or the emotional weight that these stories carry. And here's the most important part. Humans haven't kept these legends alive for thousands of years unless they spoke of something relatively real. Maybe not the literal transformation, but something true about it. Something inside of us or something out there. And so with that, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think werewolves are real? Do you think people can become beast, whether it's from magical powers, from the moon? Do you think it's maybe a curse? Let me know down below. I'm interested. I definitely think that there are things out there we can't explain. I don't know if we fully become animal. At least I want to believe we don't, but who knows? On top of just this, we didn't even talk about the legend of the skinwalker, and those have been discussed by Native American tribes for thousands of years as well. So who knows? Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's a little truth to the legend. But with that, guys, let me know what you think about this down in the comments. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Drink water, be safe, say thank you to Alexa, and I'll see you in the next one.